All right then, you humans go live your lives. Kana turned her back on the group, completely ignoring them as she focused on roasting the horned rabbit skewered over her small fire. Wait! The sound of splashing water echoed as Sely finally swam back to shore, drenched from head to toe. Her soaked clothes clung to her, and the ponytail she once wore had come undone, letting her golden hair drape past her shoulders. Her sky-blue eyes locked onto Kana's back, filled with hesitation and conflicting thoughts. Kana had just pulled the sizzling rabbit from the fire and was about to sink her teeth into it when Sely called out. Instinctively, she clutched her meal possessively and narrowed her eyes. "You're not getting any," she warned sharply. "I don't want your food," Sely snapped, stomping her foot in frustration. "Then what do you want?" "A second trip into the lake," Kana growled, her tail flicking irritably. She still wasn't sure if this human was looking to pick another fight. "No, I'm not dumb enough to take on someone who can send me flying with a single hit." Sely's voice dropped to a more serious tone. "I know I can't beat you. I came to ask for your help." Kana raised a brow, skeptical but curious. "We accepted a quest from the Adventurers Guild, and, well, we're in over our heads," Sely admitted, bowing deeply. "If you're willing to assist us, we'll repay you however we can, as long as it's within our ability." Kana blinked. The rest of Sely's team looked equally stunned. Sely wasn't known for humility, yet here she was, lowering her head to someone else. "Kana, take the deal." Lyserth's voice rang gently in her mind. "You're the one who said not to trust humans," Kana replied silently, puzzled. "If they can give you a fishing rod and spare hooks, you can finally try fish. And a bag would help you carry supplies." "As for those two things," Lyserth suggested. "Fish." Kana's eyes lit up. That was all she needed to hear. "All right, I'll negotiate." She turned to Sely, now serious. "I'll help, but I have two conditions. If they're within reason, I'll make sure they're met," Sely said, standing straighter. "I want a fishing rod with extra hooks and a bag." Kana's expression was firm, as if she'd just demanded a treasure chest of gold. Sely blinked. That's it. She had been expecting something outrageous. But then again, this was a lizard, a talking one, sure, but still a lizard. And in a kingdom where non-humans were often mistreated, it wasn't like Kana could just walk into a shop and buy supplies. "That's it," Kana said flatly. "If you agree, fine. If not, leave. I want to eat in peace." "Yes, of course." Sely nodded eagerly, relieved that they'd secured help. Without Kana, the group wouldn't have lasted another day in that forest. "Are you sure that's all? We already have those things. If you need anything else, just ask." Kana stared at her for a moment, then added, "A pillow and a blanket." She imagined how much better sleeping would be with those. If she was getting a bag, she could finally carry more than just roasted meat and leaves. Pillow and blanket. "Ray." Sely turned. "Head to town and—" "My name is Kana," the lizard girl snapped, cutting her off sharply. Sely flinched, then quickly corrected herself. "Right, Kana. Get the things Kana asked for." "Huh? Why me? You made the deal. You go," Ray protested, throwing his hands up. Then he turned to Kana with a forced smile. "Right, Kana? Go, or I'll slap you with my tail," Kana replied coldly. Her gaze narrowed as she studied him. There was something in Ray's grin that reminded her of the human traffickers from her past life, smiles that hid chains. What? What did I do?" Ray recoiled. "Your smile pisses me off." Ray's smile faltered the moment Kana snapped at him. "Your smile pisses me off." It hit harder than it should have. He was used to his teammates mocking him, but having someone from a completely different species call him creepy, that was a new low. His shoulders sagged, and the worst part was the laughter that followed. Fain, who usually kept his composure, was nearly on the ground, laughing so hard he struggled to breathe. Sely strutted over, a wide grin plastered on her face. She clapped Ray hard on the back, not bothering to hide her amusement. "Told you. Doesn't matter what species they are. Every girl thinks you're creepy." "All right. Fine. I'm a creepy bastard, okay. I'll go to the damn town." Ray snapped, voice rising in frustration. "Better than standing here, getting roasted by my own party." He turned on his heel and stomped off into the woods, muttering under his breath. Sely, maybe tone it down a little, Fain said, trying to scold her, though his voice still carried traces of laughter. He means well, just has women issues. Fain, you know it's more than that. Rin, quiet until now, finally spoke up, her voice cold and blunt. It's not just about his awkwardness with women. He's a liability. During the Wolf and Bee fight, he was deadweight. And it wasn't the first time. Remember the last quest? Isabella got hurt because he couldn't manage the ads. Sely and I are constantly running around cleaning up after him. Our party isn't functioning like a team, and he's the reason. Her words hung heavily in the air. He's not training. He's not improving. You just want to flirt and slack off. We all know why you keep him around, Fain. Ren's gaze narrowed. Fain's expression turned serious. Yeah, I know. It's because he's a noble. He let out a long sigh. My parents work for his family. If I cut him loose, they'll get punished. Maybe fired. Maybe worse. You know how his father operates. A heavy silence followed, until Sely broke it. Then, I'm leaving the party after this quest. Ren and Isabella looked at her in shock. You're serious? They asked in unison. Sely nodded. Dead serious. I've been thinking about this for a while. I've fallen behind. I'm 17 and still haven't evolved. I'm still an apprentice, while all of you have advanced. I joined this party hoping to grow, but I've been wasting time. Drinking instead of training. Following someone else's pace instead of my own. She stood tall, a quiet conviction in her voice. I want to get stronger. And I can't do that here. Not like this. Kana, crouched by the fire and roasting another horned rabbit, watched the drama unfold with curious eyes. To her, it was like one of those dramas she used to hear people talk about. In her past life, she'd sneak peeks through windows to catch glimpses of TV shows. Sometimes she got chased off. Sometimes things got thrown at her. But she remembered the thrill of watching those stories unfold. This is just like one of those, right? She whispered to herself. Then, loud enough for all to hear, she asked, Isn't this the part where someone slaps someone? Or like, begs them to stay? The group stared at her, thrown off by the timing. No one's slapping anyone, Ren said flatly. Sely snorted and plopped down beside Kana, mood shifting in an instant. Anyway, Kana, I'm hungry. Share some of that rabbit, will you? Kana's eyes narrowed. She hugged the roasted meat close to her chest. No, get your own food, stinky human. Oh, come on. You got enough to share, Owl. Sely yelped as Kana's tail smacked her hand away. Keep your hands off my food, Kana growled, smacking again for good measure. Sely laughed despite the sting, swatting at the air. You're vicious. Off to the side, Lyserth sighed. When did those two become such close friends? Kana, I truly worry about your future.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
After some tit-for-tat, Kana finally gave Sely half of her last roasted rabbit, only because she was already full and she did not want to waste any of the food. You two have become quick friends, Ren said as she sat down next to Sely. Who's friends with a stinky human? I just didn't want to waste food. Kana protested. She did not like humans. She was only getting along with these guys in order to fulfill her part of the deal. She wanted her fishing rod, hooks, bag, and bedding. Humph! Who's friends with this lizard? Sely crossed her arms across her chest and turned away from Kana. Everyone seeing this was speechless because they were happily chatting away no more than a few seconds ago. All right, whatever. We will be setting up camp. Kana, was it? Do you mind if we set up camp here? Fain asked. Yeah, but a little further away from me. I don't want the smell of humans ruining my sleep. Kana replied as she scooted further away from Sely. You can sleep without worry, Kana. If they make a move on you, I will wake you up. Lyserth replied. Since she was nothing but a soul, she did not need to sleep and could feel any hostile presence around her. So Kana sleeping with these 5 humans was perfectly safe. Thanks, Lyserth. I was starting to feel tired as it was. Lyserth, do you think we could trust them? Kana asked. She felt that maybe Sely was okay, but she could feel a bit of indifference towards her from the others. But even Sely, she would not trust all the way. You can never fully trust a human. But as far as I can tell, Sely doesn't seem to harbor any kind of ill feelings. As for the rest, I would keep a close eye on them. But still, be careful of Sely as well. Lysereth had no trust for humans, not after what had happened to her. You could say she hated them, but she had no issues with using them when she needed something. Like right now, where Kana was gaining a few things she needed for helping these adventurers out. The next morning light shined down as Kana slowly woke up. She stretched her front legs, then her hind legs before taking a look around her. It seemed all the humans were sleeping except for Sely. She was busy waving around a short dagger a little ways away. Kana walked over to where she was and watched her wave the dagger around. I thought you used to bow. Sely froze and turned to see Kana sitting there watching her. Seeing it wasn't anyone else, she continued to practice her swings. I do. It is my main weapon of choice, but if I'm going to be solo after this quest, I need to get my skills back with a dagger. I haven't practiced my swings in a long time. If I did not know how to fight with at least a dagger like this, I would be dead real quick. I see. Why are you doing a job that can cost you your life? Kana asked out of curiosity. She wondered what kind of life Sely had. For some reason, she could see a bit of herself in Sely's eyes. Because I have no other choice, Sely said, stopping her practice and walking over to sit next to Kana. She took a look at the camp of her teammates. After seeing no movement, she continued. You see, I do not have a family. They were killed by a noble who had fallen in love with my mother, or so I have found out anyway. At the time, I was 12. That noble sent his men to my house to drag my mother away. My parents hid me in a trap door beneath the floorboards, which was used for storing foodstuff. I heard arguing and my mother scream. The smell of iron quickly filled my nose. Then I heard one of the men who came saying something about let's play with her first. What I heard next was something I wish I never heard at all. After that, those men laughed as they walked out of my house and lit it on fire. As the flames quickly spread, I had no choice but to exit the place I was hiding and try to escape. But when I ran into the front room, I found my father's headless body lying in a pool of blood. My tears that were already flowing flowed even more. I tried to drag my father's body out of the house many times, but I was too weak to move him. The flames grew too hot, forcing me to run out of the burning building. I have no idea if my mother is even alive. The only thing I know from all the information I've gathered thus far is that it was a noble who took her. His reason was because he fell in love with her. Sometimes I wish I wasn't human. Then I could just... Sely. A voice came from behind, interrupting Sely. The two turned to see Rin standing by the fire, looking around. Kana looked back at Sely and asked one simple question. Do you hate humans? Sely looked at Kana and smiled a true smile for the first time in a long time. If I could, I would kill them all. She patted Kana on the head before getting up and walking to where Rin was. Kana sat there for a while, lost in thought. She knew humans were disgusting. They were greedy and selfish. They only cared about themselves. Sely was like her, except she was able to make a living as an adventurer in this world. Kana wondered if she was human in this world if she would have done the same. No, she was sure of it. She would use her life to secure her food every day, just like she did in her past life. It was just that between her and Sely, this world had an adventure guild while hers did not. Because of that, she suffered much more. Kana sighed as she whispered, She's like me. After everyone was up and had something to eat, everyone sat, waiting for Ray to return. What is taking him so long? Sely was beginning to become impatient. Strangely enough, she was not sitting next to her team, but Kana. There seemed to be a rift between her and the group now that she had decided to leave. Hey, is that human coming back or not? Kana asked. Although she had all the time in the world, she was also getting sick of waiting for that man. Let's just head out then, Fain suddenly said, which Sely found strange. Normally Fain would never leave without Ray since he would get in trouble. Well, more that his parents would end up in trouble. In a low whisper, so low only Kana could hear, Sely gave a warning. Kana, keep your guard up. I'm not sure what is going on, but they may be up to something. Kana looked up at Sely and gave a slight nod. She also felt something was wrong. Lysereth was also giving her a warning. Be prepared to kill these humans. Just as that Sely girl said, you need to be careful. After listening to Sely's story, Lysereth had a tiny bit better opinion of Sely. It was not much, but it was enough for her to feel that Sely would not hurt Kana. I will be careful. Kana felt Fain was definitely hiding something from the way his eyes were shifting. I will leave a note for Ray to catch up. We will mark the trees, so he does not get lost. Everyone okay with that? Fain asked. Of course. Isabella and Rin nodded to agree. Sely looked at Kana, who nodded, and only then did she nod as well. Good, then let's head out. Fain picked up his shield off the ground, slung it over his back, and put his short sword in its sheath before walking off towards the forest. Rin and Isabella followed after him. Sely, unlike her teammates, already had her bow ready and an arrow notched on its string. Kana, remember you need to be careful. If any one of them tries anything, I will cover you. Are you sure you can attack them? Kana asked to see if Sely would hesitate to answer or not. I said it before, right? I hate humans, so my answer is yes. Sely said with a smile as she followed after the rest. Kana hummed before following Sely. She wondered if it really came down to it, if Sely could really hold true to her pledge just now. If not, she did not mind killing them all. Kana herself was surprised that when she thought about killing a human, she did not feel sickened by it or feel she would have any hesitation. She felt that it would be no different than when she killed monsters. In fact, she thought humans were more monstrous than monsters. Between what happened in her past life and the story that Sely told her, she felt that monsters were much better. The group headed into the forest and quickly came upon a pack of spiked monkeys. These monkeys were covered in gray fur and looked very cute, except they loved standing in the treetops pulling the thin spikes they grow out of their backs at those roaming in their territory. Each spike they plucked only took a few minutes to grow back as well, making them a hard foe to fight if you were melee. Sely, Rin, I need you two to cover me. Area taunt. Fain yelled out as he ran forward and shouted out his skill, Area taunt, while digging his large shield into the ground in front of him. This skill taunted all enemies within the area of 3 meters to attack him. Kana was hit by the taunt and automatically felt angered by Fain. Does this human wish for me to bite his ass off? Or what does he wish for me to blow fire up his ass? Why the hell is he taunting me for? Sely smiled wryly, realizing that Fain's taunt had also taunted Kana. She reached over and placed her hand on Kana's head and said, Ignore him. His taunt will not work on monsters who just ignore it. I will blow fire up his, but later. Kana gave a snort before charging forward. She had fought these spiked monkeys before and knew they could not hurt her with their spikes. Kana, watch out! Sely suddenly yelled out, causing Kana to stop and watch as a fireball shot right past her head, crashing into the ground a meter in front of her. Kana's eyes narrowed as she turned and looked at Ren. What the fuck are you doing? My mistake. Sorry. Ren apologized, but the smile on her face did not show she was sorry at all. I see. The deal's off. You humans can fuck off, Kana said, turning around and began walking back towards the entrance of the forest. Kana was not dumb. Ren had actually aimed for her. She even shot her fireball perfectly so that it would hit if she had kept running forward. Ren, what the fuck are you doing? Fain yelled as he continued to block the spiked monkey's attack. Ren laughed as she waved her hand. Behind her, 10 people came walking out of the underbrush. In the lead was Ray, and the rest looked to be soldiers. Fain, you can drop the act now. We have no reason to keep this charade up. Sely, kill the monkeys. We will then capture this lizard. No, I am wrong. I should say we will capture this dragon and bring her back for a huge reward. Humph! Kana snorted and looked at the humans. She was now 1 against 15. Lysereth, what are my chances? They all seem to be a lower level. Even the soldiers they brought have only evolved once. Even if you still haven't evolved, you're still a dragon, meaning you are equivalent of a high-level first evolution human. If we play this smart, we may be able to take them all out. But I'm 100% sure you can escape unharmed after breaking through their defensive line. Seems I am not too late for the party, Ray said with a laugh. Rin trotted over to him and gave him a hug before turning to Sely and saying, Sely, kill the monkeys already. Sure, I will kill the monkeys, Sely sneered as she aimed her bow. But she was not aiming anywhere near the monkeys, but at Ren. She pulled her bowstring back and released it without hesitation. "You bitch! Wind wall!" Ren yelled. Ren quickly cast a defensive spell to block the attack. "Sely, what is the meaning of this? Are you protecting that monster?" "You can say that. Kana is much more trustworthy than you people." "Ren, I thought you hated Ray? I felt it was funny the two of you disappeared after we were safe from the three-eyed hornbear. I guess the two of you ran off to fuck. Did he promise you a good chunk out of the money for capturing Kana to make you spread your legs? Do you not realize if we did not follow Kana, we would have all died? You are turning against someone who saved you." Sely was pissed. She knew they were up to something, but she did not think it would be like this. She also knew she sounded like a hypocrite, especially after saying she wanted to kill Kana, but in truth, she never planned to take Kana's life. She really just wanted to see how strong Kana was. "Are you stupid? It's just a damn monster. Do you not realize how much money we could get from Ray's father if we presented him with a dragon?" Rin couldn't understand why Sely was so willing to protect Kana, nor could she understand why Sely could not understand how much money they would get out of this. Originally, after escaping the three-eyed hornbear, Ray had pulled Rin aside and told her he planned to grab Kana and get a handsome reward for turning Kana over to his father. He then said he would make sure she would get a bigger reward than the rest if she would become his woman. Rin, who was greedy for money, nodded her head, instantly agreeing to his terms. Fain had no choice but to follow the plan whether he liked it or not, and Isabella was part of the Holy Church of Euthia, who looked down on all races. The only one who did not know was Sely. Ray disliked Sely and was not going to let her in on it. He planned to have them all return to town first and gather reinforcements before returning to the forest without Sely. They never expected to run into Kana right outside the forest. This made things easier since they did not need to search for her. Now they only needed a way to keep Kana with them until they had reinforcements. But that was when Sely, who was oblivious to their plan, asked for Kana's help making things easier for them to initiate their plan. "This makes you no different than those girls who work at the brothels." Sely yelled. She couldn't believe Ren would sell herself for money. "Humph! I have no reason to explain myself to you. But since you are against us, then that means you are our enemy. Kill her and grab the damn lizard." Ren yelled. Ray let out a laugh and waved his hand, signaling for his men to attack. He looked at Sely and let out a sigh. "It is too bad to see such a beauty die. I tell you what, Sely, if you become mine as well, I will let you live. Sound good, right? Fuck off. This is why I hate humans." Sely yelled and raised her bow once more. She reached behind her and grabbed 3 arrows and notched them all. She then drew her bowstring back and let them go. They flew through the air like lightning. But even with how fast they were going, 2 missed their target because they dodged it while 1 landed in the 3rd soldier's chest. She had gotten it right between the man's metal plates on his chest. She had no choice but to jump back and fire a few more off. Kana watched as everything was unfolding in front of her. She was unsure if Sely was on her side or not, but from the look of it, these people meant to kill Sely. She did not know if she should run or if she should kill them all here and save Sely. She felt somewhat conflicted. "Lysaerth, what should I do? We need to kill them here and now. If I am right, you have the speed advantage. Just pounce on that bitch who sent a fireball at you and bite her neck clean off. I will watch her back. Don't be scared to get hit by their swords. Your defense is strong enough to ward them off with little to no damage. Now go." Lysaerth wanted to get Kana out of this place as soon as possible, but she was also one to not let someone who was willing to stand up for her die. Sely showed she was willing to stand on Kana's side. She would not let Sely die here. Kana slipped into the bushes while everyone else was focused on Sely. She used her speed and quickly made her way around the group. Kana actually found it funny how unfocused these people were. She had disappeared from Sely's side, but they only focused on Sely and not their real target. "Wait, where is the dragon?" Ren suddenly yelled out, when she finally realized Kana was gone. "Right here, you stupid bitch. Bite." The sound of Kana's voice coming from behind her caused Ren to turn around and try to block the attack, but she was way too slow. Kana pounced, grabbed hold of Ren's shoulders, and bit down on her neck. Kana's mouth was wide, and her teeth were sharp. She bit clean through Ren's skinny neck, separating her head from her body. Ray, who was standing next to Ren, was soaked in blood and stood frozen on the spot. He was having a hard time comprehending what had just happened. He only came to his senses when something wet hit his face and then fell to the ground. He looked down to see a chunk of flesh dripping in saliva lying on the ground. It was the part of Ren's neck that Kana had just bit off. Kana wiped her mouth and, with a disgusted expression, plastered on her face. Bleh! Humans taste nasty. You fucking lizard! Isabel yelled out as she watched Ren die almost instantly. She held out her book in one hand and turned its pages before stretching out her free hand towards Kana. A bright golden glow began to emit from her hand as she began to chant. By the blessing of Euthia, I beseech thee to restrain thy enemy, binding Lig. Kana, watch out. That girl is... Lysertha's words got caught in her throat as she watched an arrow pierce Isabel's head, stopping her chant. Kana turned and looked at Isabel, who stood frozen. Her hand was stretched out, pointing towards Kana, but the look on her face was full of shock. Her body swayed back and forth as blood trickled down the side of her head from where the arrow was still protruding out. Slowly her body caved under its weight and fell to the ground. Kana then looked towards Sely, who was still fending off the soldiers, and smiled. Since you helped me, I will help you. Kana jumped up into the air, tail whip. She spun her body around, smacking Ray in the side of the head, sending him flying towards a tree. She saw Ray as a waste of time to deal with. After sending him flying, Kana then charged towards the soldiers, who were still chasing after Sely. Kana noticed that Sely was getting tired and could not keep dodging the soldiers' attacks for much longer. Kana racked her brain for a way to assist Sely, but the only thing that came to mind. Sely, stop fighting and retreat deeper into the forest. This was the only thing Kana could think of. At least, by retreating into the forest, Sely could use the forest as a means to slow her pursuers down. Hearing Kana yell out to her, Sely did not hesitate in the slightest to listen to Kana as she jumped into the thicket to the side. Lyserth was quite surprised by Sely's actions. First, she did not think a human would kill one of their own to help a dragon who they thought of as monsters. Second, she never expected Sely to put so much faith in Kana, leaving her life in Kana's hands and not hesitating at all to follow her orders. She is definitely an interesting human. Following Kana's instructions, Sely dropped any ideas of attacking anymore and focused purely on running away. Half the soldiers who were focused on Sely finally turned their focus on Kana, which is what Kana hoped for. As the men came running towards her, Kana snorted and shook her, but at them before running in a different direction. This, of course, made Lyserth facepalm. Kana, what is your plan? Lyserth asked. She was very interested in what the young dragon had planned out. There were many things Kana could have done differently, but she chose this method instead, which made Lyserth wonder what she really had planned. Well, I first wanted to get rid of these soldiers quickly and then head to Sely. For all it is worth, she did save me when I let my guard down. If that binding spell hit, I may have been in a bad position, no? Kana knew Lyserth would not warn her if an attack would not harm her. But since Lyserth did try to warn her, it meant that Kana could have been caught if that spell hit. You are right. I'm not sure how high her magic power is, but with the way she added an amplification chant to her spell, I felt you would have been in danger. Luckily, that human girl saved you before she finished calling out her skill name. Lyserth knew if Kana were to be hit with a binding spell, she would have been in trouble. If not for Sely, things would be going very differently right now. Back where Fain and Ray were, Ray crawled up from the ground, half his face swollen from being hit by Kana. That fucking lizard. Wait until my father gets bored of parading you around. I will make you feel pain you never imagined. You actually dare hit me? You dare kill my woman? I will show you what it means to mess with a noble. I didn't even get to have enough fun with her yet. Fuck. Ray, it is good to see you back to your normal self. But can you give me a hand here? These monkeys are growing in numbers. Fain yelled over. The number of monkeys was indeed growing, and Fain was being bombarded with spikes. If he let up on blocking the attacks with his shield, he knew he would not be getting out of here alive without any help. Ray looked at Fain and let out a sigh. Out of all the people he had near him, Fain was his most loyal. But he could not let that dragon get away, nor did he want to let Sely go. Since Ren was now dead, he wanted to make Sely his woman. Fain, you need to hold on for a little longer, okay? I will make sure to come back quickly. Ray shouted out his reply before running in the direction Sely ran in. Fain stared at the spot Ray disappeared and felt very betrayed. He wondered why he was protecting someone who cared nothing for those who worked under him. Oh, fuck it. Mom, Dad, sorry. Fain yelled out as he took his shield, holding onto the end of it, spun around in circles with it stretched out in front of him, and then tossed it towards the monkeys in the trees. Sadly, in the process of doing this, he was hit by hundreds of spikes. Some bounced off his armor, and some found cracks and stabbed into him. Blood dripped between the cracks of his armor as he turned to run away. He could hear the monkeys in the trees making noises, almost as if they were laughing at him. As he tried to get away, he was continuously bombarded with more spikes. Blood flowed uncontrollably out of the cracks of his armor. His vision started to become blurry, and his movements began to slow. He only got to where Ren's and Isabel's bodies were before he collapsed to the ground in a pool of his own blood. He had no more energy to run. He had lost too much blood. The spiked monkeys in the tree saw their prey had collapsed, which led them to bounce up and down in the trees happily. 10 monkeys climbed down the tree cautiously. When they were sure no one else was around, they ran over to the dead bodies on the ground. 3 of them grabbed Isabel's body and dragged her away. Another 4 grabbed the still semi-conscious Fain and dragged him away as well. When the 3 monkeys looked at Ren's body, 2 of them grabbed her ankles and followed after the others. One monkey, though, picked up her head and tossed it into the air. Oh. The monkey made some happy sounds as it did a handstand and caught her head with its feet. It then tossed it back up into the air again and flipped back over so it was standing up normally. It caught her head with its tail and ran off to catch up with the other monkeys. The only evidence that 3 people died here was the pools of blood that were now soaking into the ground and the trail of blood leading off deep. What the hell is with the speed of this dragon? One of the soldiers yelled. No matter how much they ran, they were having issues catching up to Kana. But what made things even worse was that Kana was stopping and shaking her, but at them every so often, allowing them to catch up. Kana, this should be far enough. Lyserth had Kana pull them further away from the rest before taking care of them. This way, the other enemies would be less likely to see any of Kana's attacks, making it easier for her to fight the rest. Kana smiled and slid to a stop. She turned and looked at the 5 soldiers running toward her. Seeing her stop, the soldiers also came to a stop with their swords drawn. Oh, did you run out of energy? You know, if you are good and follow us to our master, we will not harm you. So let's do this the easy way. Kana grinned and whispered very quietly, but audible enough for the men to know she said something but not know exactly what it was. Too bad you 5 will die a horrific death soon. Did you say something? The soldier in the lead asked, taking a few more steps towards Kana. The men behind him doing the same. Kana suddenly had a great idea as she pointed to her throat and then motioned for the men to come closer. Stupidly enough, they did just that as the leader, who was only a meter away, stopped and asked, "What's the matter? Something wrong with your throat?" Kana suddenly opened her mouth wide and took a deep breath as she shouted, "I said, baby breath." A flame shot out of her mouth, quickly spreading out into a cone, burning everything that it touched. All 5 men had no time to react as they were engulfed in flames. They could only scream out in pain as their bodies burned. Some fell to the ground and rolled around, trying to put the flames out, while others ran around in a panic, screaming. Unfortunately for these unlucky soldiers, a dragon's flame is not so easily put out. Ding. Level 3-4 out of 10. Status points 0-5. Oh, I leveled up, Kana said happily, ignoring the screams of the men burning to death. Add 5 more points into agility. You will need it if you wish to save the human girl. Lyserth instructed. Kana nodded her head and immediately put her points into agility. Agility 20-25. Status points 5-0. Now that is done, I should head towards Sely. I can smell her scent this way, Kana said as she took off running. Sely was really starting to get tired. You assholes are really persistent. Look, you shouldn't have attacked us in the first place. This arrow hurts, you know. The man with an arrow still sticking out of his chest yelled out. Sely frowned as she continued to run. She wondered if Kana was going to come back and help her or not. She hoped Kana was not like these humans. She hoped Kana was more trustworthy than the humans around her. Tears began to well up in her eyes as she ran. She was scared. She knew what would happen to her if she was caught. The images and sounds of what had happened to her mother that day began to pop into her mind. Sely's eyes became blurry due to her tears, causing her steps to falter as she misjudged where she was stepping and tripped on a tree root. Her whole body flew forward due to her momentum. She crashed into the ground and slid across the forest floor until finally coming to a stop. Sely tried to get up only to have a sharp pain shoot through her leg, causing her to scream out. But she still gritted her teeth, pushed herself up, grabbing the side of the tree next to her, and pushed her back against it. With her bow in hand, she notched her last arrow and aimed it at the soldier in front of her before letting it fly. The soldier waved his sword, easily knocking the arrow away, and began to laugh. Haha, I must say, girl, you really made us chase you pretty far. But it seems luck is on our side. He scanned Sely's body from head to toe, and then turned his head and looked at his men behind him with a wide grin. You boys think the boss would mind if we had a taste before killing her? I don't see why not. He did say to kill her, so I see no problem if we all had to go at her 3 or 4 times. Hell, even 7 or 8 won't matter, right? One of the soldiers answered while chuckling. In fact, he was already undoing his belt as he was speaking. Now hold on. We need to decide who will be first. The man with an arrow still stuck in his chest laughed. He knew his men all wanted to go first, but they still had to be fair in times like these. Heads, heads, tails, tails, heads. Sely watched as the men began flipping a coin in front of her to see who would get to do her first and smiled bitterly. She pulled the dagger at her side from its sheath and put to her chest. She took a deep breath as the tears in her eyes finally began to flow. Dad, I will be seeing you soon. Mom, hopefully you will be there too. But as she was about to thrust the dagger into her chest, she heard a familiar voice causing her to stop the dagger as the tip entered her skin. I choose tails. Sely watched as Kana came flying out from behind some trees, spinning through the air, and slammed her tail down on top of the man with an arrow still stuck in his chest head. At this time, Sely had never been so happy in her entire life to see a monster. A smile spread on her lips as her tears poured uncontrollably down her cheeks. Kana, you really came. Kana stood on top of the soldier who had an arrow still in his chest, making a perfect victory pose while wagging her tail back and forth. She turned and looked at Sely and excitedly asked, Did I look cool? Was it heroic? Sely did not know if she should laugh or cry, but she knew one thing. She was glad Kana came. She smiled brightly despite her tears and nodded her head. You were definitely the coolest. Kana put her hands on her hips and raised her snout to the sky and snorted proudly. Fuck, just when I was about to have a taste. Hurry and capture this damn lizard. Then we can get back to it. One of the soldiers had finally come back to his senses after being shocked by Kana's sudden arrival. Kana, take these guys out quickly. I sense another one sneaking around in the bushes. Lyserth had detected another person in the bushes nearby, watching things unfold. Okay, Kana replied happily. She was in a very good mood after being praised for her amazing entrance. Now then, time to finish the rest of you. Claw, bite. The soldier closest to her didn't even have a chance to react when Kana suddenly moved in on him and swiped her claws down, creating a huge gash in his chest and then her sharp teeth penetrating his neck. Kana did everything in one fluid motion and used the soldier's body as a springboard to jump to the next soldier. Claw, bite. In an instant, 2 of the 4 soldiers were dead. Fuck, why is she so fast? The soldier that yelled before began to slowly back away. He was not getting paid enough to deal with this. Where do you think you're going? Kana asked as she spat out a chunk of flesh and charged right at the man. He tried desperately to swing his sword at Kana, only to have her use her hind legs to kick it out of the way. She spun her body in a circle and lashed out with her tail. Tail whip. Claw. As Kana landed, the last soldier yelled out as he slashed down with his sword right onto Kana's back. Kana! Sely yelled out as a loud clang sound was heard. But the blood both Sely and the soldier had expected to come out was nowhere to be seen. Kana frowned as she turned her head and looked at the soldier from over her shoulder. You dare to try to stick a sword up my butt? Where are you, Shiro? Lyserth did an instant facepalm as she thought to herself, Kana, dear, that wasn't anywhere near your butt. And who the hell is Shiro? Claw, claw. Kana quickly finished the last soldier off as well. Lyserth, where's the last one hiding? They're trying to get away. They are heading south. Lyserth answered. Sely, I will be right back. Kana said as she ran off, not waiting for an answer. In the forest, running with all his might, Ray wanted nothing more than to get away from Kana. That is no dragon. That is a demon. What the hell was my father thinking? You can't even hurt it with swords. Fuck. I lost so many men. Ray continued to run and run, and as he passed through a thicket full of thorns, his pant leg got caught on a large thorn, causing him to stumble. He quickly climbed back to his feet, but what he saw as he raised his head was said demon. Stay away. Yo, fancy meeting you here. You see, I think Sely may want to speak to you since your men tried to kill her. I also want to have a few words with you. So please do join us for some tea. Is that right, tea? That should be right. Anyway, come now. Kana wrapped her tail around his neck and began bounding back through the forest toward Sely. She was not gentle in the slightest as Ray's body was smashed off the ground over and dragged over sharp rocks and through thickets full of thorns. After Kana had left, Sely finally let out a sigh of relief. She was saved. Kana did not let her down. She had never trusted her life to anyone, but for some reason, when Kana asked her to stop fighting and run, she felt like Kana would not abandon her. That Kana would return after taking care of the 5 men she pulled away. She looked down at her swollen ankle and cuts and scrapes. She saw how torn up her clothes were and let out a laugh. If only I were not human. Being stuck in such disgusting skin makes me sick. Sely's hate for other humans had grown stronger on this day. She wished she could wipe out the entire species. As she was lost in thought, a rustle came from the bush close by, and an object was tossed in front of her. Sely looked at the object and realized it was a human, but they were a bloody mess. With one look, she could tell the person had many bones broken. Sely, I brought that fake smiling guy for tea. Kana came walking out of the bushes and sat down on top of the bloody mess. Wait, is that Ray? Sely asked as she realized who Kana was talking about. Fake smiling guy. Although I'm not sure how he got like this. Kana looked at Ray's current state and scratched her head. Sely burst out laughing. After so much that had happened today, she was glad she could still laugh. Kana, where are we going to get any tea around here? Oh, now that you mention it. Kana's red cheeks turned redder as she rubbed her snout in embarrassment. Anyway, I brought him back in case you wanted to say something to him. If not, I will blow fire up his butt. Sely looked at Ray, who looked as if he had gone through a meat grinder and formed a small smile on her face, seeing his condition. Ray, as a noble, how does it feel to be nothing more than a withering worm? You wanted to kill me? Now look at you. You wondered why I never liked you in the first place. To me, nobles and humans are all the same greedy fucks who only care about themselves. Even though his entire body hurt and he had lost a lot of blood, Ray couldn't help but laugh at Sely's words. Real rich coming from a human. Sely, are you not just as selfish? You turned your back on humanity to help a monster? Selfishness is not about who I choose to side with. It is about the things humans do. They see something and they want it. Just like today, how you wanted to bring Kana back with you to please your father against Kana's will. Just like how, when I was young, some fucking noble broke up my happy family, killed my father, burnt down my house all for the sake of taking my mother away due to a noble fancying her. Ren, Isabel, and even Fain all of you are the same. I protect those who I feel like I can trust, and Kana is someone I can trust. Humans always have two faces. They will show this nice outer face to the masses while behind the scenes, they are scheming. I myself wish I were never born a human. Just being in human skin disgusts me. But being able to see a high and mighty noble fall under his own schemes is really a wonderful sight. Sely stopped looking at Ray and turned to Kana. Kana, I'm done. You can do whatever you wish with him. Sely felt some of the weight on her shoulder had finally been lifted. She laid back and closed her eyes. She didn't even want to look at Ray. Okay, now, Kana looked at Ray, her eyes narrowing. Did you eat the last of my horned rabbit? I could have sworn I saved a leg for breakfast this morning. I woke up and it was gone. Kana began to smack Ray with her tail, causing him to grunt in pain. Well, Kana, he can't answer if you keep hitting him, Lyserth said with a chuckle. She found that when it came to food, Kana would become very unreasonable. Hearing Lyserth, Kana crossed her arms in front of her chest and snorted, but not without using her tail to smack Ray again. Gah, fuck, I never touched your rabbit. Ray finally answered. Oh, I could have sworn it was you. You look like someone who would steal my rabbit. I mean, that smile you gave me yesterday said it all. Well, that doesn't matter. Time to blow fire up your butt. Kana jumped behind him and took a deep breath. No, wait. I can give you money. Ah. Ray gave a horrific scream as Kana lit Ray's but on fire. Why is he offering me money? I'm a dragon. Kana did not understand why someone would offer her money. It was not like she could go to town and spend it. Seeing how Ray was roasting quite well, Kana walked over to Sely and laid down next to her. What are your plans now? I'm not quite sure. I do not really have a place I belong. If I go back to the town, I am sure Ray's father's people will try to capture me and ask where his son is. I hate humans while being one. I am nothing but a walking contradiction. Sely let out a sigh. She really had no idea what to do now. She had officially turned her back on humanity. She wanted nothing to do with them. But now, she was stuck with no place to go. She had not thought about what she would do from here on out. Kana, let her follow you for now. Although she is human, her hate is real. I know I said not to trust humans. However, I think this one is worthy of some trust. Lyserth had been very impressed by how Sely acted this entire time. She had never met a human like Sely before. I do not mind. She has helped me a lot. It will be fun to have someone else around as well. It will be like keeping a pet human. Kana thought this was a very good idea. Although she had Lyserth to talk to, having one more around to speak to was not so bad either. Sely, if you have nowhere to go, you can follow me for a while. However, I'm not going anywhere in particular. I'm just trying to level up so I can cast cool spells. Kana really had no defined destination, nor did she plan to set one. She only wanted to be able to cast some cool spells and see the sights around her while eating yummy food. She figured maybe sometime down the road, she will eventually find out what she actually wants to do with her life. But for now, she was happy just killing things and eating them as she slowly leveled up. Sely looked at Kana and smiled. I will gladly accept. I have nowhere to go in this world anymore. So roaming the lands with you sounds good to me. As the two talked, Ray's cries of pain finally stopped. His body had turned completely black as it continued to burn. Far off outside of Lyserth's detection range, a man stood on a tree limb with yellow magic circles spinning around in his eyes. It seems Master Sun failed to get the dragon. I will need to report this as soon as possible. The man jumped down from the tree he was in and spoke one word, accelerate, and in a flash he disappeared. All that was left was the rustling of the leaves of the trees as a gentle wind blew through the forest. The chaos that had occurred a short while ago seemed to have been blown away by this gentle wind. The sun overhead continued to move across the sky, making way for the moon to rise. Kana's journey has only just begun. Bofelton City. What? That good-for-nothing couldn't even capture a single dragon? Humph. I should have figured as much. This man was Walter Lamfield, Ray's father and a noble with the rank of baron. Master, the dragon. Yes. Go and gather as many men as you can. If the dragon is that strong, we will need as many as we can get. Also, get the Adventurers Guild involved as well. Have a quest issued no limit on the number of adventurers who can accept it. We will be heading out in 3 days' time. Conscript the healthy men of the city as well. I must have this dragon. If I can get it and present it to our king, then I am sure my rank will jump substantially. Make sure they bring it back alive. Walter was already hearing the praise of the king, as if he had already presented the king with a live dragon. What do we do about the girl named Sely? Capture her too. As long as she is not ugly, she can give birth to a new son for me. Walter set off handily like it was no big deal. The man who made the report couldn't help but wonder if the man in front of him even cared that his only son had died. But from the looks of it, the man understood that his master only cared about his own success. A son was expendable since he could always make another. When thinking about this, he felt bad for Sely because he knew his master had a habit of torturing women. Back outside the forest, Kana was happily chewing on some rabbit meat. Sely had gathered all the belongings her former party members had left behind. She was lucky to find a single healing potion that allowed her to heal all her wounds. Fortunately, it was a medium-tier potion, so even her ankle healed well. If it were a low-tier potion, she would have only healed her cuts and scrapes. After gathering all their things and placing them to the side, Sely walked over to Kana with a few items in her hands. Kana, I know these are used, but this is the best I can do for now. Sely presented Kana with a fishing rod with some hooks, a blanket, and a pillow. Kana looked at them, her eyes lighting up. Are you sure I can have these? Kana, someone who was poorer than a rat in her past life, these items could be considered brand new to her. She was very excited to receive something like this. In the future, I will figure out a way to get you new ones. Sely felt bad giving Kana old things, but she knew Kana wanted these items. It made her feel worse when she saw how excited Kana got just receiving these items. Kana hugged her new items tightly and sat down near the fire. She gently placed the fishing rod and hooks to the side before she began spreading out the blanket, and then placed the pillow down. After she was sure everything was okay, she plopped down on her stomach, pushing her face into the pillow. Letting out a relaxing sigh, Kana felt content. You seem ever satisfied. Lyserth found the pillow and blanket to be a bit too shabby for one of her kind, but seeing how pleased Kana looked, she didn't say anything. She also felt that Kana not being materialistic was also a good thing. I never had a pillow this good before, Kana said absent-mindedly, not realizing her words could bring about questions. Luckily, Lyserth paid no mind to how odd Kana's words sounded. Kana, we will need to move camp now that Ray and the others are dead. If Ray's father knows you are a dragon, I'm sure they will come to hunt you down. Sely knew how the minds of nobles worked. Even if Ray were dead, it would mean nothing to Ray's father. He would send out an even greater force now that his son has failed. She is right, Kana. I hate to say it, but we should probably head back into the forest. Level up as quickly as possible and take over one of the territories. If we make our way back toward the mountain area, we may even find a cave to claim as our home base. Lyserth did not wish to do things this way, but they were still in the middle of the humans' territory. If Kana were to venture out with her current level, it would only be a matter of time before she was caught. It was actually safer for her to head back towards the mountains and take up a base there. Kana replied. She was already half asleep, and it was unknown if she had even heard a word Lyserth had said. Kana. Sely looked over at Kana, whose eyes were now closed. Her back was rising up and down as she slept peacefully. Sely shook her head in amazement. You are very carefree when we could be in trouble at any minute. But I guess this is what makes you you. Sely put another log on to the fire and then lay down, resting her head on Kana's back and closed her eyes. The day's events had really taken a lot out of her. In tune with Kana's soft breathing, Sely also quickly fell asleep. Lyserth gave a slight smile, wondering how this human could also fall asleep after saying what she just said. For a human, you are very strange. I hope the little trust one placed in you will not be thrown back in my face. A wet substance hit Kana's face, waking her up. With her sleepy eyes, she looked around her to see what was making her wet as she felt more wetness hit her body. She looked up at the sky and saw that it was clouded over and it had begun to rain. Kana got up, not realizing Sely was using her as a pillow, giving Sely a rather rude awakening. Huh? What is going on? It's raining, Kana replied as she did her best to try to protect her new pillow and blanket. She had folded it all up and laid on top of it, trying to keep it dry. Seeing Kana's actions caused Sely to giggle. She got up and took one of the extra packs from her old team members and emptied it out. Here, put them in this. Thank you. Kana wagged her tail happily and quickly stuffed her blanket and pillow into the bag, then pulled the string at the top tightly to keep it dry. The bag itself was made from a special monster hide that repelled water to keep its contents safe. Using the strap itself, Kana put it around her neck and let it settle between her wings. She then folded her wings around the bag to keep it in place so that it would not bounce around. Kana, can you help me with this tent? Sely asked. The tent was very big and could fit all her former teammates in it, although she preferred not to sleep in it. She hated being confined in a small space with so many humans. It made her sick to her stomach just thinking about it. Okay. Kana bounded over and began helping Sely out. In no time at all, they had finished taking down the tent and packing it up. They also got the other gear packed up and left anything they would not use. By the time they were done, the rain had really started to turn heavy. Sely was completely soaked, but she did not care. She stood in the rain with a large pack on her back, ready to start her new life away from human society. Ready? Yep, let's go, Kana said happily. She was seeing everything she did as a new adventure. She had only been in this new world for a few days, and she already loved it. Her past life was nothing but a struggle to find food. That feeling of always being hungry was something she would never miss. In this new life, she was free to find food when she wanted and eat as much as she pleased. She could even cook it as well, not to mention the fact that she could eat all the meat she wanted. Kana, you will need to make your way back towards the mountains. It will be the safest place for you. If the humans really do come looking for you, they will need to fight their way to your location. On the way through, I will release my aura enough to keep all monsters away from you and the human girl. So hopefully, we could get to the mountain range by tomorrow morning. But still, because that three-eyed horn bear may still be roaming around, so it would probably be best to take a longer way around instead of the direct route. This will add a bit more time to the journey. Notify your new friend about the plan. Lyserth had a feeling that the noble who was after Kana was not going to just send a few men out this time, but more like an army of men. She figured if Kana can make it to the mountain range without fighting, then she could easily find a good hiding spot for when the noble's men finally reached them. If she was really lucky, these men would be spread out and thinned out enough that Kana would be able to take them out swiftly. Okay, Kana answered before turning to Sely. Sely, we will be heading to the mountains, but we will be taking a roundabout way due to the three-eyed horn bear. We should not be attacked by monsters on the way, but still keep an eye out just in case. Kana already figured it would be best not to fully trust Lyserth's monster warding powers, especially after last time. The two entered the forest under the cover of the rain and headed towards their destination. No more than 10 minutes went by when a group of 4 people arrived at the now abandoned campsite where Kana and Sely had just left. It's hard to tell with the rain, but I think the girl and the dragon left not too long ago, judging by the track marks here. They seem to be heading into the woods. Should we follow after them? One of the 4 asked. No, if there's more than one of us, it will be difficult to track them undetected. I will continue following them. You 3 will head back and report the findings. Tell Master that they are in the forest. I will continue tracking them and will send reports periodically. A man who wore black clothing from head to toe gazed off into the woods. A smile crept upon his face as he thought about tracking his prey down. The thrill of the hunt really excited him. Kana, I thought you said we wouldn't be attacked by monsters. Sely asked as she drew back her bow, firing an arrow into a huge black spider. I thought so too, Kana whined. Her answer was not only for Sely, but a question to Lyserth, who said she wouldn't run into any monsters. Maybe monsters have changed since I was alive. Lyserth was at a loss for words. Ever since they entered the woods, they had been fighting off low-level monsters left and right. She was sure she was releasing her aura, but these monsters did not seem to care in the slightest. Ding. Level 3-5 out of 10. Status points, 0-10. Because of how many monsters they had to fight, they did not make it to the mountain area until around midday the next day. Finally made it. So tired, Sely almost collapsed to the ground. They had been fighting monsters and moving nonstop for the entire day and night. Sely was drenched in sweat and the blood of monsters, while Kana did not fare much differently. We should be able to rest for now. I do not detect any monsters in the area. Unfortunately, I think the reason why the monster ignored my aura was due to the human. So keep your guard up. This was the only conclusion Lysaerth could come up with after watching Kana and Sely get attacked over and over. I wish I could take a bath. Sely whined, but she did not dare even try to look for a place to bathe. For two reasons. First was because there was a good chance that she would be attacked by monsters during the whole process, and second was because she couldn't shake this weird feeling of being watched. Sorry, Sely. It may be a while before you can. Kana felt bad because even she felt disgusted with all the monster blood on her. She did not even dare lick herself clean either. It's fine. I will get used to it over time. For now, let's find a cave. Sely forced a smile. She didn't want to worry Kana. Kana, careful. I didn't realize it until now, but we were followed. They only entered my range for less than a second, but I am sure it was a human. Lysaerth wanted to curse herself for being so powerless at this time. Normally, her ability to detect what was around her would span across the entire kingdom. But now, she was only able to do so by a short distance, while there were spells that could easily enhance a person's vision many kilometers away. It's okay. They would end up coming anyway. Plus, if it were more than one, they would have attacked us by now while we were fighting monsters. At least that is how I see it. Kana replied. Lysaerth was actually stunned at how knowledgeable Kana's words were. She was exactly right. They would have attacked them while they were fighting if there was more than one. This meant it was a lone scout. I suggest you and the human find a cave to stay in, and quickly. If I'm sensing things right, there should be a cave up ahead with a monster inside it. It is in between two cliffs and very narrow. It will make defending easier. If Sely and Kana were able to kill the monster in the cave, and then make the cave their own, they could easily defend it from the humans who were after them, since Kana's baby breath would easily make the entrance impassable. After getting instructions from Lysaerth, Kana explained things to Sely, and the two headed deeper into the mountains. They had found that there were no monsters around the area, which meant that the cave that they were going to was currently occupied by a powerful monster. Kana, are you sure this is okay? What if this monster is stronger than the three-eyed horn bear? Sely asked nervously. Even I am not sure about fighting this monster, but I do know that if we wish to defend against the humans who are coming after us, then we need a place like this. Our time is limited, so we have no other choice but to try to forcefully take over this cave. Kana replied with what Lysaerth explained to her. She would prefer not to deal with any powerful monster. To her, that would just be jumping to her own death. But she also knew that if they continued any deeper into the mountains, then she would be forced to face stronger monsters than she was now with humans at her back. She was literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. If Kana turned back, she might have had a chance to fight the humans and escape. But she would need to leave Sely behind to do so. That was before they realized they were being followed. But now, things were different. Even if she turned around and tried to fight the humans, she would have two outcomes: die or be captured. Although, she would more than likely only be paraded around like some kind of sideshow. Sely would end up in a situation that Kana didn't even want to think about. It was better to take a risk and fight a stronger monster that they may win against, or at least they could use the monster as a means to quickly die. Bofulton, a small glowing bird, came flying through the window of Walter Lamfield's office. It circled the room a few times before finally landing on top of his desk. Walter put his ink quill down, his gaze falling on the glowing bird that was no bigger than his palm. Report. The dragon and the girl have entered a crack between two cliffs. They seem to be working out a plan to make a base for themselves. As long as they do not move from this area, we should be able to surround them easily. As far as I can tell, there's only one entrance. We can charge right in and capture your future mistress and the dragon with ease. A voice came out of the glowing bird as it opened its mouth. Good, keep an eye on them. We will be moving out with 30,000 men tomorrow morning at first light. Walter sat back in his chair, his lips curling up into a smile. Not only will my status rise, but I'll have a new young wife to birth me, a new son to replace that idiot that died. Kana and Sely stood in front of a crevice between two rocky cliffs that rose high into the sky. A small ways away from their location was a large opening to a cave. Kana could already smell a stench coming from within the crevice. The ground outside was lined with bones. Let's hope this monster is not too strong. Either way, I would rather die to it than let the humans get a hold of me. Just thinking about their paws touching me makes me sick. Sely made a disgusted face as she spat on the ground. Then let's go. Kana tried to sound excited, but her voice still trembled. She was scared of death, but she also did not want to be trapped in a cage someplace as someone's pet. Sely could tell Kana was scared as well. It was bluntly obvious with how her tail was tucked between her legs as they walked towards the cave. Inside the cave, a lump of fluffy fur shook, white from head to toe with a pink nose and big eyes on its face. It raised its head and looked at the two intruders in front of it and let out a low growl. It slowly got up and unfolded its long, fluffy ears as it slowly exited the cave. On its head were 3 horns that glistened in the light of the day. At the sight of this large, fluffy creature, Kana's first and last reaction was her eyes going wide and saliva dripping from her mouth and onto the ground. Big rabbit. The fear she once had was all gone as she bounded towards the giant rabbit in front of her that was 4 times her size. The giant tri-horned rabbit looked at the lizard running towards it with drool dripping from its teeth and the eyes of an animal who had starved for months, and took a step back. Yes, this proud, 3rd evolution tri-horned rabbit had actually taken a step back in fear of Kana's eyes that only saw it as food. Kana, that is not a regular horned rabbit. You need to be careful. Lyserth was trying to calm Kana down out of her hunger-crazed state. She knew Kana had not had a chance to eat anything since Sely and her were fighting monsters all day and night. She also did not expect the monster to be something that Kana would recognize as food. And now, because she was basically in a zombie-like state that only made her think of eating food, Lyserth's words were not getting through to her. Kana was blinded by her hunger as she shot right at the tri-horned rabbit. She jumped in the air, opened her mouth, getting ready to chomp down on the juicy rabbit in front of her. To Kana right now, this tri-horned rabbit was already fully roasted and waiting to be eaten. The stunned tri-horned rabbit only returned to its senses when it felt a sharp pain in its right front leg, causing it to roar out in pain. It shook its right front leg violently, trying to get Kana to let go, but it was as if she was glued to it, not willing to let go. It smashed Kana off the ground over and over, but Kana did not seem to wish to give up enduring the pain for the food in front of her. Sely, who had her hands stretched out still in the same motion, as if she was going to try to stop Kana, stared at the scene in front of her in shock. She had never expected for things to unfold like this. It seemed the tri-horned rabbit was becoming nervous as its blood began to pour from its deep wound. While all that was happening a short distance away, a large figure was walking around sniffing here and there. When it finally smelled a certain scent, its large head with bloodshot eyes turned and looked in the direction the scent was coming from. It let out a low growl as it stood up on its hind legs, using its front legs to smash the tree next to it. Its 3 eyes narrowed in anger as it suddenly dashed towards the direction the scent was coming from. "Master, we're already ready. We can leave tonight if you wish," a man announced as he knelt down in front of Walter. Good. Go bring back both my new wife and the grand prize, a real live dragon. To think a dragon would appear after so many long years. Walter could not wait to get his hands on both. After the man left, Walter walked over to his bookcase that was filled with hundreds of books. He grabbed a certain book and tilted it towards him. A clinking sound was heard, and the case in front of him began to shake. Slowly a portion of the case opened up, revealing a set of stairs leading down. Walter walked down the staircase, gazing at each picture on the wall. He smiled as he gazed at them. Each picture depicted a young woman ranging from ages as young as 14 to 20 years of age. At the bottom of the stairs was a wooden door. He pushed it open, and a strong stench of iron and feces filled his nose. A cruel, unfeeling smile appeared on his lips as he entered the room. Ah, such a shame. You could have lived longer if you just gave birth. But alas, you couldn't even handle a bit of foreplay. Dangling from a hook stripped of clothes and covered in burns and open wounds was a young woman around 18 years of age. Her eyes had no light in them. It was clear she was already dead. Walter reached out and caressed the body with his hands, still warm. "Do not mind if I..." The tri-horned rabbit continued to flail around, trying to get Kana off its arm. After being smashed around quite a bit, Kana finally managed to bite through the tri-horned rabbit's front leg, taking a huge chunk out. Kana landed on the ground and gulped the fresh chunk of meat down, not caring that it was raw. Blood dripped from her mouth and onto the ground as she eyed the tri-horned rabbit to go in for another bite. Sely, who was watching this whole thing, was actually quite amazed as to what was happening. But her amazement did not last long when she heard a rustling coming from behind her. She turned around, and out of the tree line, a few meters away, stood a very familiar figure that Sely truly wished to never see again. Three-eyed horn bear. The same exact three-eyed horn bear she had seen before. She could tell because, for some reason, the damn bear still had footprints on its stomach after all this time. Sely quickly jumped back away from the three-eyed horn bear and drew her bow. She had no choice but to try to hold it off. "Kana, we have trouble," Sely yelled out as she fired her arrow at one of the three-eyed horn bear's eyes. Sely cursed their luck because now they were forced to fight not one, but two high-level monsters at a time. They were lucky that right now, the humans who would be coming after them were not here yet. Kana turned and looked in Sely's direction when she heard her yell. When her eyes landed on the three-eyed horn bear, her previous hunger-crazed state quickly vanished. Fear began to creep up inside her, which caused her movements to become sluggish. The tri-horned rabbit felt a change in Kana's demeanor and quickly struck out with its hind legs, trying to smash Kana into the ground like a pancake. "Kana, what are you doing?" "Ignore the damn bear and dodge," Lyserth yelled. Luckily this time, her words got through to her, and Kana did her best to try to get out of the way, but the tri-horned rabbit's claw was still able to nick her right hind leg. This was the first real damage Kana had taken since she came to this world. HP 500-400. Ow! Kana yelled out as she felt something slice her rear leg. She looked down and saw that it was bleeding from a huge gash. "Kana." Sely had been doing her best to keep an eye on the two monsters and Kana when she saw Kana tumble to the side and a spray of blood shot from her leg. Sely quickly shot another arrow at the three-eyed horn bear before rushing towards Kana. Little did Sely know that her decision to run to Kana's side was the best decision to make at this time. As the tri-horned rabbit was dislodging its leg from the ground, Sely quickly arrived at Kana's side and pulled her back as far as she could. Kaylee quickly ripped a strip from her shirt and wrapped it around Kana's wound, tying it tightly. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" Kana looked up at Sely with a grateful look and shook her head. "No, just the leg, thanks." "Then what should we do?" "We are currently trapped with two high-level monsters in front of us." Sely could not see any way out of this situation. But things all changed when they heard a loud roar. Roar! Roar! The tri-horned rabbit had turned its aggression to the newcomer who had walked into its domain. Compared to the injured lizard and human, the three-eyed horn bear was a bigger threat to the tri-horned rabbit. It quickly pounced at the three-eyed horn bear, striking it in the stomach, sending it flying. Along the three-eyed horned bear's stomach, for gashes formed, causing spurts of blood to fly out of them as the three-eyed horn bear crashed into a tree. Even though the two monsters were both third evolution monsters, one would think the three-eyed horn bear would have the advantage over a tri-horned rabbit. While that may be so in the first and second phase in their evolution, there was a very good reason why the tri-horned rabbit was able to make its domain so close to the mountains where the three-eyed horn bear could not. That was because the speed, strength, and sharp claws of the tri-horned rabbit were that much more deadly. A three-eyed horn bear was slow and sluggish with lots of power, but when fighting against a speedy yet strong tri-horned rabbit, it was outclassed in every way. And this scene was unfolding in front of them. The three-eyed horn bear let out a roar of anger as it got back to its feet and slammed its front paws on the ground. Large pointy spikes made of rock shot up from the ground, racing towards the tri-horned rabbit who just stood there as if what the three-eyed horn bear was doing was no different than tossing a light punch at it. Just before the earth spikes reached the tri-horned rabbit, it stomped on the ground, causing the ground to split open in front of it. This crack shot towards the three-eyed horn bear, destroying all the earth spikes along the way. When it reached the three-eyed horn bear, the cracked earth began to encircle the bear, threatening to swallow it up. Off to the side, Sely gently helped Kana into the cave to stay out of the path of the fight that was happening between the two high-level monsters. Sely reached in her pack and handed Kana a red vial. "Drink this. It will help heal your wounds. Keep marching. Slay anything that blocks your path." A man on the back of a scaled horse shouted. He donned heavy armor and had a huge spear at his side. The men in front of him also wore heavy armor with shields and long spears. Anything that tried to attack them died. There was a sea of soldiers behind them as they slowly marched through the woods. Mages stood behind the front lines, burning down trees, clearing the path ahead as they progressed towards the mountains. At first, they were attacked by many monsters, but as they continued, the monsters quickly learned to stay away. Back by the mountains where Kana and Sely were, Kana's wound healed quickly thanks to the potion Sely had given her. "Thanks, Sely. The pain is now gone. We are a team now. There's no need to say thanks. Nothing was broken, right? The potion was only a low-quality one and won't heal broken bones." Sely asked. She was very worried about Kana, which surprised Kana. "Nothing broken." Kana smiled and stood up. She never thought in her entire life someone would show her such care. She wondered if this was what it was like to have a sibling. This kind of feeling is not so bad. "Kana." Sely looked at Kana. She could hear Kana say something, but her voice was too low to hear exactly what she said. Kana shook her head. "It's nothing. We need to attack those monsters when they are on their last leg. Kana, give the bear to the human girl, and you take the tri-horned rabbit. All she needs to do is shoot an arrow through the bear's top while it is about to die to finish it off. This will give her the kill experience, allowing her to level up to 10 instantly." Lyserth cut in. She had been keeping an eye on a monster's battle and could tell the tri-horned rabbit was a higher level, which meant more experience for Kana. But she knew that having Sely evolve to be an archer would also help since it would give her new skills. "I will." Kana replied in her mind before explaining to Sely what she should do. Sely had never thought to steal the kill and nodded her head without a word and readied her bow. She needed full concentration to fire her arrow at the exact moment the three-eyed bear was about to die. Roar! Roar! The ground shook under the battle of the two high-level monsters. By this time, both monsters were covered in blood. The horned rabbit already lost the use of its front right leg due to Kana taking a chunk out of it and was still bleeding from the wound. Now on top of that, it also had many more wounds that it received from the three-eyed horn bear. The three-eyed horn bear was faring no better and was actually in worse shape. It had actually lost one leg altogether and had many deep gashes in its chest, so deep that even the bone was visible. The three-eyed horn bear was losing so much blood that it had become very sluggish and was hardly able to stand. But even still, it continued to try to fight the tri-horned rabbit. Sely and Kana both watched the fight in amazement. Kana wondered when she would be as strong as these two, but she hoped the day she did become that strong that she did not become dumb to the point where she would fight back and forth like this. Kana could not understand what drove the three-eyed horn bear to keep fighting when it was already in such a state. It was not like it was gaining anything out of it. Was it pride? Did the three-eyed horn bear really want revenge so bad just because she accidentally smacked into it that would put itself through this torment and end up on its last dying breath, all just to kill her? Such things were beyond Kana's comprehension. She had lived a life of survival. You did what you could to survive as long as it did not go against your own morals. As an example, where some girls in her past life would sell themselves to men for money, she never did that. She respected herself enough to never want to get involved in such dirty acts. those girls would end up being tricked into taking some kind of drug and then become addicted to this drug. Then instead of something that should have been a one-time deal for them, it turned into the only way they could support their habit. The back streets were a place of many dark acts, and Kana had witnessed many of such acts with her own eyes. So seeing the three-eyed horned bear go through such lengths without even a single thought of self-preservation confused her to no end. Kana saw no honor in its actions. It had become obsessed with the thought of revenge, and now it was paying the price for that obsession. Don't think too hard on it, Kana. This is a common sight amongst all species. Whether it be human, demi-human, dragon, or monster, there will always be a time when revenge or pride will control them. What you are witnessing is a combination of the two. Lyserth did not know what was on Kana's mind, but she could tell Kana was having problems understanding why the three-eyed horned bear continued to fight when there was nothing to gain from it all. Just remember from this experience, this is what happens when you get lost in revenge. I'll make sure to never become this obsessed with revenge. Because if you lose your life in the process just because the target is there, then you will die for nothing. It is better to grow stronger and come back. And repeat this process as many times as needed. Hopefully, I will never need to take revenge on anyone. The battle between the three-eyed horned bear and the tri-horned rabbit was coming to an end. Kana, Lyserth, and Sely were watching the battle very closely. Kana, tell the human to kill it now. Sely now. Kana did not hesitate to do as Lyserth asked. Even she could tell the three-eyed horned bear was about to die. Sely pulled her bowstring and took aim. This time, though, unlike the arrow she had fired before, the arrow she notched began to glow with white light. She pulled back hard on the string, and when she was sure she could hit her target, she released her arrow. The arrow caused a loud, booming sound as it shot forward, breaking the sound barrier. The tri-horned rabbit felt danger coming from behind it as it was about to land the killing blow and dodged out of the way. The arrow flew past it and pierced the top eye of the three-eyed horned bear before passing straight out the back and flying through the forest. The remaining two eyes of the three-eyed horned bear locked onto Kana before growing dim. Kana did not waste time either. When the tri-horned rabbit dodged the arrow, it had not expected that another danger awaited it. Kana had attacked from its blind spot, chomping down on its neck. With how weak it was after fighting the three-eyed horned bear, it was already on its last legs as well. Ding, 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 ding. Level 5-10 out of 10. Status points 10-35. Level cap has been reached. Evolution menu now available. Oh, I can evolve. Kana, who was mid-air doing a backflip, almost slammed into the ground face first while being distracted by the messages popping up in front of her. I do not think that tri-horned rabbit was so high level, but now is not the time to be sitting around Kana. You can look at your evolution list later. Lyserth pulled Kana out of her curious daze, stopping Kana from pressing the button that appeared for the evolution menu. I can't, Kana asked, her eyes starting to become watery. She wanted to cast cool spells. Her evolution was right there in front of her. There is no time, and you need to clean this rabbit and eat it, and then add points to your stats. The human will also need you to guard her, since she will not need special items to evolve. Lyserth was not going to give in to the puppy dog eyes Kana was giving her. Kana lowered her claw in disappointment and walked over to the now dead tri-horned rabbit and began pulling it towards the cave. Kana. Sely ran up to Kana and checked her for any wounds when she saw Kana's face looking gloomy. Only when she saw Kana was not hurt did she let out a sigh of relief. Sely had not realized it, but ever since Kana saving her, she had been seeing Kana as someone very important to her. Sely, how is it? Did you level up? Kana asked. Yeah, I can evolve to become an archer anytime, Sely answered with a smile. She reached over and grabbed the other front leg of the tri-horned rabbit and helped Kana drag it to the cave. Farther away, a man in black clothes who watched the whole thing frowned. To think that those two would be so lucky. He was truly jealous. Those were considered king beasts. Anyone who could deal a finishing blow to one of them would get multiple levels instantly. Seeing it go into his enemy like this really left a bitter taste in his mouth. But this also brought up another problem. Now his enemy was much stronger than before. I need to report this. Keep pushing forward. We will rest when the moon grows high. The man sitting on top of a black-scaled horse commanded. They were almost at their destination and would reach there by midday the next day. He knew his men were tired, but they had to continue forward so that their prey did not escape. The man looked up into the sky, and a glowing white bird flew down to him and landed on top of the black-scaled horse's head. The glowing bird's mouth opened. The targets have just last hit 2 king beasts, and their levels are now much higher. Be extra cautious. The message made the man on the black-scaled horse frown. What can they do with a 30,000-strong army attacking? The hard part will be trying to keep them alive. The man on the black-scaled horse snorted and sent a message back to the scout, telling him to keep an eye on the two. So good, so tender, so much better when cooked. Kana exclaimed as she happily chowed down on the horned rabbit's meat. Kana, you are getting it all over your face. Sely let out a laugh. She reached over and wiped Kana's snout. She ate the last bite of the rabbit meat in her hands before standing up, causing Kana to look up at her. Sely? Kana was confused when Sely suddenly bowed her head to her. I will go into the cave to begin my evolution. Can you please watch over me? It normally takes a human a few hours to evolve. Sely asked, her head bowed low. Sely, I plan to watch over you anyway. You said it before, right? She'll wear a tweem. Kana said the last part of her words with a mouth full of meat. Sely let out a laugh as she lifted her head and copying the way Kana had just spoke. You're right. She'll wear a tweem. Sely walked to the pile of dry grass that the horned rabbit was using as a bed and sat down. She used her finger and tapped a few times on the air in front of her before suddenly her whole body began to glow. Swirls of white mist began to form around her, forming a ball-like shape. Slowly, this white mist began to solidify, forming a large egg-like shape. Kana watched the whole process in great interest. Sensing Kana's interest, Lyserth began to explain. All the species of this world are born as normal, but when one evolves, they are basically being reborn. The thing about evolution is that when someone is in this state, they are in a very delicate state. The eggshell is weak, and if it breaks, the evolution process will fail and will end up killing the person inside. Many monsters die in the wild due to this. The same goes for humans as well. This human is putting an undying trust in you. By evolving in your presence means she trusts you with her life. With a simple flick of your finger, you could kill this human. But I would never do that. Sely and I are friends. She may be human, but we both live by the same belief. As I am now protecting her while she evolves, she will do the same for me. Kana said seriously. For Kana to speak so seriously like this surprised Lyserth. This showed that Kana also had the same trust for Sely as Sely did for her. Lyserth was actually relieved that Sely came into Kana's life. She also held a great deal of trust for the human girl. There were many times when Sely could have easily killed Kana, but Sely not only did not try to harm Kana, but has been showing more of a familial kind of care for Kana. She is acting like an older sister, but she felt this was a good thing as well. Since when Kana goes to evolve, Lyserth will be put into a slumber as well. The risk of evolving alone was like walking a fine line between life and death. If you were lucky, you got through it without an issue. If you were not lucky, you would end up dead. Lyserth could not even count the number of dragons who had died during evolution. They were either killed due to internal conflict or risked evolving outside without anyone to protect them. It saddened her every time she sensed one of her kin dying. Kana put 20 of your status points into vitality and 15 into strength. This should help you during the next battle ahead. Lyserth did not say it, but she was able to feel a vibration in the ground. This kind of vibration was not natural, and she knew it was an army of humans. The reason she knew was because she has felt it before. She could tell the army was a very large one at that. Kana did as she was told, opened her status screen, and began distributing points. Nagano Kana. Race, dragon. Evolve type, dragon baby. Level, 10 out of 10. HP, 500-700. MP, 300. Attack power, 400-550. Magic power, 350. Status points, 35-0. Strength, 40-55. Intelligence, 35. Vitality, 50-70. Mind, 30. Agility, 25. Defense, 100. So am I strong or not? Kana looked at her stats and could never tell just how strong she was compared to other monsters. No, Lyserth gave a flat answer, causing Kana to instantly pout. You have not even evolved yet. When you do, these stats can easily triple or quadruple based on the evolution path you choose. Just be patient and do not rush to evolve. You'll be able to cast all your cool spells when you finally reach the peak. All right, Kana still couldn't help pouting. She thought her stats were pretty good. But after thinking about how strong the tri-horned rabbit was and the three-eyed horned bear was, she knew her thought process was just wishful thinking. Now, Kana, in order to make sure you get the best and strongest evolution choices, you need to do one thing. Lyserth grinned slyly, making sure to emphasize the correct words. That is, Kana's eyes widened in excitement and was quickly hanging on to every one of Lyserth's words. You need to say a special chant and perform a few body movements. Lyserth slowly began to explain. Kana listened carefully to everything Lyserth had said and stood up on her hind legs. She then raised one foot behind her and spun around in a circle while making a ballerina-type spinning motion. Pretty me. I will jump like a bunny rabbit ye. From her spinning form, she suddenly cupped her paws to her chest and began hopping around in a circle like a bunny 3 times before coming to a complete stop and yelling, "Damn it, you tricked me again." Lyserth was smiling widely as she watched the scene. As always, Kana, you're truly too cute. Now, let's do the next set. No, I will not fall for this again. Kana yelled and stamped her feet. She felt so embarrassed for once again falling for Lyserth's tricks. It had not happened in so long that she had completely forgotten that Lyserth would sometimes lie to her. TCH, looks like I will need to wait a while again. Lyserth mumbled. She was a little disappointed with how quickly Kana realized she was messing with her. Still pouting, Kana walked over near the large egg that held Sely and lay down next to it. About 4 hours passed, and Kana raised her head when she heard a cracking sound. She turned to see the egg that encased Sely was starting to break. Kana, the human's evolution is finishing. Her name is Sely. Kana replied. Fine. Sely's evolution is about to conclude. Lyserth corrected her way of calling Sely. The cracking sound began to get louder and louder until finally, a hand broke through the egg and pulled hard on the shell, creating a large opening. Sely poked her head through the shell and stood up, stretching her limbs. She then climbed out of the eggshell and stood in front of Kana, who was staring at Sely in shock. Sely? Kana asked as she tilted her head to the side, staring at the extra things attached to Sely. She walked around Sely's body and reached up and pulled hard on a long black furry thing sticking out just above Sely's butt. Ouch! Kana, what was that for? Huh? What the hell? I have a tail. Sely just now realized she had a black fluffy tail coming off her backside. It's attached, Kana said. Her expression showed much confusion. It seems Sely unlocked a special evolution. This is a rare occurrence, but it does happen. She is no longer human, but a demi-human. Lyserth tried to clear things up. Was this because I chose the special evolution option Beast Hunter? But why do I have a tail? Sely felt something else was off, so she reached on top of her head, and her eyes widened even more. I have animal ears. Sely, you look like a black cat, Kana said while still tugging on Sely's tail. Each tug was knocking Sely off balance. Kana, can you stop that? Sely pulled her tail out of Kana's claws and hugged it. But when she felt how soft it was, she instantly began rubbing it against her cheek. When she went to start her evolution, she noticed a new kind of evolution had appeared. Normally, humans only get one selection based on the stats they had. For Sely, she had stats that allowed her to be an archer. But there was suddenly a new selection that was called a Beast Hunter. Knowing that they were going to be in for a rough fight soon, Sely threw caution to the wind and hoped the Beast Hunter class would give her a boost. But not only did this class boost her stats almost threefold, but she was given many more skills, and best of all, she was no longer a human. When she looked at her race, it said Cat Sith. All her hair on her body was now black. Even her eyes had changed. They were now a golden color with feline pupils. Sely's smile grew wider and wider until she could no longer contain her happiness and excitement as she jumped up and shouted, "I am no longer a dirty fucking human." Kana smiled and nodded her head while crossing her front legs across her chest. "You did well." It was as if Kana was the one who made this happen. Although, in a way, this was not far from the truth. The reason why Sely was given such an option was because she reached the requirements to do so. First was she must hate the human race with a passion, and second was to gain the full trust of a beast with intelligence and fully trust them in return. These allowed her to gain the Beast Hunter class and evolve from a human into a Cat Sith. Sely now had not only archer skills, but blade skills. She can now fight toe-to-toe with a melee wielder just as good as she could fight long range with a bow. It's good her evolution did not take long. You two need to grab some rest because the morning will be a fierce battle. Lyserth could feel the human army was getting closer and closer. She still had uncertainties about the battle ahead, but if things were done right, they should be okay. Lyserth knew that their position, although an advantage, was also a disadvantage to them as well. While it would force the soldiers to file in a tighter area for battle, the mages in the back line could easily bombard them with spells, making the fighting much harder. "Sely, we need to get some sleep. I can sense the humans will be here early in the morning." Kana took Lyserth's words to heart and had no choice to break up Sely's good mood. "You're right. Let's get some sleep." Sely knew now was no time to be so overexcited. She waited for Kana to lay down and get comfortable before joining her, using Kana's stomach as a pillow. "Men, rest up for 5 hours. We will be locked in battle come morning. Those who are on watch tonight, be vigilant. We are deep in the forest where monsters are all at a higher level." The man on the black-scaled horse yelled out. He then climbed down from his horse and brought it over to a tree, feeding it some water and feed. Once again, a glowing bird landed near him, making a report. "So they're still in the cave, good. This will make tomorrow go very smoothly. Fall back and get some rest. They cannot escape anymore, even if they wanted." The morning sun shined down through the tree canopies. The sounds of footsteps echoed out through the forest. There were no sounds of birds or any other animals that you would hear early in the morning. The sound of soldiers pushing their way towards Kana and Sely scared away any low-level monsters. As for Kana and Sely, they were outside the cave, staring off into the distance. "We can set these traps like this." The two only got a few hours of sleep last night. They ended up spending half the night setting up traps along the cliff's walls that Sely could activate with an arrow. She no longer needed to use human-crafted arrows, since she could now create them with magic. After many hours of setting up traps here and there, Kana and Sely dug a few trenches just outside the cave for cover and used the dry grass and some spare clothes to make a dummy of Sely, covering the entire dummy in a cloak to make it less noticeable. "We can only do this much." Sely knew this was a life or death battle, and she worried things would end up bad. "Kana, if things get to the point where we will die, I want you to run as fast as you can and get away. You are the first dragon to appear in hundreds of years. I won't let you die here. I will do everything I can to break open an escape route for you when the time comes." Sely knew they would no longer try to capture her now that she looked like a demi-human. They would just think she was some random demi-human who happened to be passing by, and the real Sely ran away, leaving the dragon alone. They would target her to kill and then try to take Kana back. But if they began feeling pressured, they may change plans and just outright attack Kana to kill. Kana felt how much Sely cared about her, which made Kana's eyes begin to water. She walked over to Sely and hugged her. "I won't leave you. If we are to die, we can die together." Kana already died once. She didn't want to die, but now that Sely and her were like sisters, she would not leave Sely to die while she ran away. Kana would not be able to live with herself if that was the case. "Kana, if things get bad, I want you to grab hold of Sely. I will use the last of my power to send you both away from here." Lyserth knew that by using all her power, she would disappear for good. But she did not want these two to die here, especially not Kana. And since Kana was not willing to leave Sely behind to escape, then there was no other choice but to save them both. Lyserth. Kana was slightly confused. What did Lyserth mean by the last of her power? Dear, I've already died long ago. So me disappearing is a normal thing, and eventually, one day, I will end up disappearing once my energy finally dries up. Using it to save what could be the last of my kind is well worth it. It would give great meaning to my life. Lyserth said softly, but Kana was on the verge of tears. Everyone was talking about sacrificing themselves for her. She did not want to lose anyone. She did not want to lose those close to her. She saw Lyserth as her new mom and Sely as her big sister. She did not want to lose any of them no matter what. We just have to win, right? I just have to kill all the humans so we could be free from this mess, right? Kana's words shocked Lyserth. She was a silly girl who was very gullible and cute. Sometimes she was serious, and sometimes she was a clown. But at times like this, she was able to give some hope. Lyserth could feel Kana's determination, but the fact that they were up against so many still made Lyserth worry. But Lyserth still nodded as she said, we just need to win, right? We just need to win. Kana suddenly yelled out, startling Sely. Kana! Sely looked down at Kana, who stopped hugging her. Sely, we will win. We will get through this together. No matter what happens, we will be together. We are a team, a family. I could never abandon you, just like you won't abandon me. If you tell me to run away, I will ignore it all and fight to my last breath. So to not allow ourselves to fall into such a situation like that, we only need to win. Kana shouted with great determination. Her fiery spirit to win began to rub off on Sely. You're right. We only need to win. We will slaughter all humans who dare to harm us. After being riled up by Kana, a strange chant began to echo through the cave. Slaughter all humans. Slaughter all humans. Slaughter all humans. Slaughter all humans. As the front line got near the cave, they all could hear this strange chant as it echoed out of the cave and through the narrow entrance leading to the cave. These men all began to shiver and quickly went on guard, looking all around them. Ghost! This question was what was on all the minds of those who heard the chanting. The way Kana and Sely's voices bounced off the cliff walls stretched out their voice, creating a ghostly tone to their chant. Line up. The man in full armor sat on top of his black scaled horse yelled out. We will now capture the dragon. Do as little damage as you can to it. Our intel says that this dragon is still a newborn. There's also a human girl there that we must capture alive. The man in full armor, the one who seems to be leading the entire division of 30,000 men, raised his hand into the air before shouting, Mages, archers fire at will. At this time, the mages and archers were unsure of what to do. He had just said they must take the dragon and girl alive, but now he was asking them to bombard them with ranged attacks. What would happen if they accidentally killed one of them, or both for that matter? The whole idea of having so many men here in the first place seemed too overkill to begin with. At this moment, many of them were having second thoughts. The thought of accidentally killing one of the targets and getting blamed for it made them waver. No one wanted to lose their head over an accident when they were just following orders. What the hell are you waiting for fire? The man in full armor yelled out in anger after seeing thousands of mages and archers becoming hesitant to attack. But their hesitation would soon be something they would regret. A bright white light shined down overhead. Every one of the men looked up into the sky to see an intricate magic circle forming. Not a single person knew if this was an enemy attack or an ally attack, since this was a mishmashed army that was thrown together at the last second. Because of this, not a single person went to defend themselves, and before they knew what was actually going on, chaos rained down. Arrows made of light rained down onto the soldiers, killing them in droves. The panic and chaos that ensued threw the entire army into disarray. Sely, who was still by the cave, marveled in her own accomplishment with her new skill, Hell's Rain. Kana, your turn. Sely and Kana decided to go all out, which was why Sely used her new ultimate move right at the start. The results of this new move were much better than she could have ever imagined. On it, Kana charged forward, dodging in and out between the trees until she came upon the front line of the army. Because of the situation behind them, the front line wasn't even looking at Kana, so she was able to easily attack. Baby breath. A stream of flame shot out of her mouth, spreading out in an arc, setting everything it touched on fire. The soldiers in heavy armor screamed out in pain as they were being literally cooked by the flame. Even those with water magic were not able to do anything since Kana's flame was no ordinary flame. What are you doing? Get back in forma. Ha! The man in heavy armor who sat high up on his black-scaled horse was completely engulfed in flames, just like the rest of his men. A sea of fire spread out since Kana did not stop releasing her flame. Kana, sway your head back and forth and spread the flames out even more. Lyserth instructed. Kana did as she was told and swayed her head back and forth, spreading the flames even more until her flames stopped. MP 300-150. The battle had just started, and with 2 attacks alone, they had decimated a good portion of the humans' forces. But this was only because they were a mess from the start. They had so many men and one person leading them, and said leader was just incinerated by Kana. Now with no ability to reorganize, most of the back line was already running away, seeing the devastation in front of them. This was the issue with using normal citizens as soldiers and adventurers who would not risk their lives even if the money was really good unless they knew they could win. Right now, the front line was Walter Lamfield's personal army, and they were completely obliterated. Kana quickly returned to where Sely was and looked at the carnage they had created. Sely stared at what they had done in amazement. I think we might have one. I hope so. Kana did not want to deal with these humans anymore. If anything, she wanted them to all go away and leave her alone. She just wanted to level up and get cool spells, but these humans are keeping her from doing that. Even now, she was not even getting any experience since she was stuck at level 10 and could not evolve just yet. She had not even had a chance to look at her evolution choices. It seemed as though luck was on their side, and the anticlimactic war that should have happened ended with a complete disarray of the massive army, having most of them retreat, while a few thousand lost their lives. Those that remained were stuck between risking their lives or running away. Fortunately, they all decided to run away. The sea of flames and burnt flesh was enough to deter them from trying to continue the mission. Kana and Sely watched the situation closely all the way up until Kana's flames finally died down and the smoke cleared. Only then did they breathe a sigh of relief when they saw no one else was coming. Even Lyserth let out a sigh of relief, but she still knew now was not the time to celebrate. Kana, we seem to have gotten lucky this time, but next time we may not be so lucky. We should take this chance to leave these woods and this country.